I don't know. All right, it is 6:31, and we're officially starting our last OPA meeting of the calendar year. So thank you everyone for coming. Got a sign-in sheet here that I'm passing around. If you haven't already signed in, please do so. If you have, just pass it around. We're going to start off with guests. There's no police today because Liam and all the other officers that usually come to this meeting are off for Veterans Day. But we have a full slate of speakers beyond that, though. And we're going to start with Dan Hall, who is our one of our newly elected council members. So I want to introduce you to please come up here and say hi to everyone. And Dan to sort of share some of his vision for next council, the city, and field questions. Also want to take a moment to say thank you for your service. So not just today, but every day. Thank you. So the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, good evening, OPA. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm not great at speaking extemporaneously, so I have some notes that I wanted to share, just kind of like post-election thoughts on kind of what I thought happened in the election and where, our new majority thinks we're going to take the city. So first off, obviously results are still rolling in, but my thinking on the finer points may change. But largely we have 4 new incoming council members. It's pretty statistically impossible for that to be for that to change at this point. So while we haven't formally declared victory, it's looking pretty dang near likely. And we have the initial results of how the statewide propositions played out in Santa Monica, how the DA's race played out in Santa Monica, and I'll get into that in a second. But it's all quite interesting in how we're thinking about. So first, I definitely want to thank my supporters and all the volunteers, those in this room, my mom, my dad. I think at the end of the campaign, my mom had knocked on more doors than I had. and Jason, my partner, of course, and definitely like Glean Davis, John Katz, Jesse Swick, and Carolyn Terosis for being like the first people to say like, yes, Dan, we want you to do this. And my colleagues and teammates, Ellis, Natalia, and Barry, like they were incredible teammates. Working with them over the course of the past year, I've learned so much from them. I think we balance each other's strengths and growth opportunities really well. And so I'm really looking forward to what we're able to bring for the city. We made some pretty cool gains in diversity on our council. This will be the first millennial majority council that the city of Santa Monica has had. So that's pretty exciting. We have a majority renter council now, 5-2. I am your first out gay council member for the city of Santa Monica. We also have our first out bi council member in Natalia.
I was lesbian. Oh, so that.
Gay male.
But there was nobody in between.
Right.
Who was out.
Correct. And now we
I think there were people who were.
Sure. Natalia, out bi woman. So that's really exciting. And then Barry, of course, is our first Black man on council in decades. So that's really exciting. I'm the first council member from Mid-City in decades. So that's really exciting for my neighborhood. But I also want to recognize we are losing some diversity in our council when it comes to race, when it comes to gender. And I think that's something we're all very conscious about and want to ensure that we are reaching out to those communities and the neighborhoods where those communities largely live in our city. And doing that in a very conscious manner. I think we also recognize that this is the first time in a long time that Ocean Park will not be, have a on council, or that North of Montana won't have a resident on council. So again, we're going to be really intentional about reaching out to the neighborhood associations and the residents of those neighborhoods. Santa Monicans kind of split their votes in this election. Results appear as though majorities of like 55 to 45% went with Nathan Hochman for DA. We're with the Yes on Prop 36 campaign, which obviously I did not support either that candidate or that proposition. But when voting here at home, the voters rejected by close to 2,000 votes at this point, the incumbent city council members and their allies. So it's certainly going to be an interesting thing that we're considering as we're moving forward, that our win was very much built on the backs of organizations that around us. And while we certainly have a policy agenda, we're also going to be very cognizant that voters went a different direction on some of those policies. What else? I think, I don't want to talk too much about the previous council, but we have seen 4 years of a council that I found at least to be very divisive, very controversial, straddled with different ethics issues and complaints from staff. And by my perspective, we're pretty hostile to progressive and liberal values and policies that we're trying to be pushed forward. I think we're going to bring a more abundant growth mindset around issues of crime and safety and homelessness and economic recovery, housing, mobility, street safety, civil rights, stuff like that. We have a very educated and highly participatory voters here in Santa Monica. 65% of ballots have been returned. And so that's a pretty high turnout, which is always a great thing. And I think what we saw is that tactics like anonymous letters, fear mongering, these like BS yes/no questions in the forums, which thank you, Sean, for trying to participate in the neighborhood forum. That doesn't work in Santa Monica. Santa Monicans prefer candidates and campaigns that are out there talking about the issues, bringing to light problems and proposing solutions. And so that was something I really appreciated out of this campaign. I think our coalition won because it was a very broad coalition of renters, of Democrats, of workers, of urbanists, represented by the Democratic Club, SMER, Unite Here, Forward, SEPS, Abundant Housing, and Streets for All. And, I think that shows that being pro-housing and pro-multimodal streets, pro-pedestrian safety, pro-bike safety, these are not losing issues in this city. People want to build housing for folks so that we're not pulling up the ladder of economic opportunity behind us. People want to protect renters so that our longtime contributors to the community are able to stay and live here and build families here and age gracefully. And people want to subsidize affordable housing so that we don't become a Beverly Hills by the sea. It's super important that our workers, our students, our low-income families are able to build a life here, just as any of us would. I think there's a lot of zeitgeist around crime and public safety, and I just want to address that. Local crime statistics have held pretty steady for years now, certainly with aberrations in both directions during and since COVID. So I want to acknowledge that for certain types of crime. But Santa Monica does remain a relatively safe community when compared to other cities of our size and comparable locations. That said, enough voters, certainly there's a meaningful level of property crime and mental illness and substance abuse that we see playing out on our streets and our public spaces that we as the new council majority take very seriously and will be moving fast on, because we know that is an issue that is very important to a lot of Santa Monicans, and we're going to try to address that the best we can as fast as possible. And like I said, I think candidate experience it was played into the election a little bit. Our slate had commissioners, the former president of the League of Women Voters. The other slate, Safer Santa Monica slate, had 2 individuals who were very involved in their church community but had never served on a commissioner board. So I think that speaks to, if you are interested in pursuing office in Santa Monica or getting more involved in the community and potentially running one day, it's super important to get involved at like the grassroots level and get involved in your neighborhood association, which obviously all of you are, but serving the community in a way at like board and commission, I think is a great stepping stone for that, if that's of interest to anyone. So what's next? I think I want to acknowledge that like Santa Monicans are fed up and want to move forward, whether it's all of the issues that were debated during the campaign, or just the rhetoric of the campaign in general, or just putting a close to the chapter of the last 4 years, if that's what motivated you, or even just thinking about our role in the nation and what we're going to face over the next 4 years with the incoming administration. And while this certainly was not a good election to be an incumbent in anywhere in this county, I think the voters have done, we see that the voters of Santa Monica have given us a mandate to clean up the problems that we still face from COVID, and still face from decisions that were made decades ago when it comes to building more affordable housing and ensuring that workers, low-income families, seniors are all able to live. Thank you. And like I said, moving fast, we'll do our best to hit the ground running and work with staff to move these issues forward. And so with that, I'm happy to take a couple of questions. I'm not much time you want.
Take hands as they rise. Judy. Well,
Do you want to sort of introduce yourself as to what your past has been?
Sure, yeah. Sorry, I probably could have done that. Hi, everyone. My name is
It's
Dan.
Veterans Day.
Yeah, so I'm Dan. Please call me Dan. I very much prefer that. I use he, him pronouns. I and my partner Jason, we did move here 3 years ago. That was a big issue in the campaign, of course. But it was not a couple of months ago, like some people on Reddit like to claim. But the reason we moved here and the reason we chose Santa Monica, I was in the Army for 8 years. I went to West Point, and I started my service under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And so I navigated my coming out journey, like very much kind of alone, a little bit afraid, to be honest with you. And when that policy was lifted, I remember watching President Obama sign the bill that removed that policy in like the basement of my parents' house. I hadn't come out to them yet. I just remember like bawling, that like my life had been irrevocably changed by the Obama administration. And when that policy was finally like lifted, I like came out of the closet and I had some really incredible allies who were there for me in moments of like discrimination or like really tough words being said. And I always felt the need to like pay that forward. So all of my like desire to do public service, or I do diversity, equity, and inclusion for my career. The reason I do that is because of those leaders that were there for me in those moments. And I met my partner Jason at business school. He always wanted to end up in LA. I just wanted to live in like a great community that was gay friendly and had nice weather. So LA was pretty desirable for me, and we found ourselves spending every weekend in Santa Monica. And so when the time came, I was like, let's move to Santa Monica. So thankfully, the community here has welcomed us up with open arms, and it's been really great. I've made some really great friends, really great mentors, either in the Democratic Club, through politics, through the peer commission, or just out and about, which has been really fun. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for bringing us up again today. Dan, thank you just for being here. You're the first person to come to our new council before you're even sworn in, which is great. And I just want to, it's Veterans Day, so thank you for your service. Combat veteran in Iraq, and anybody else who's here that served in, who else served in the military? Anybody else? Wonderful. Just thank you for that. And then thank you for running for office. I remember walking with you on the beach just because I wanted to, before you announced the running, just to talk to you and see what you're all about. We're really lucky to have that. Yeah. And other people on the council too, just got a caliber of people, professional experience and other experience that are high level. So I think you didn't mention that you also got a master's in public administration at the University of North Carolina, and just in addition to everything else, before you decide to run. So we've got just really competent, capable people. So thank you for being there. Thanks for putting yourself out there and running a really good and positive campaign. I think we're going to have some real leaders. People who understand leadership now on the council, and that's a very important thing.
I do the minutes you have to like.
That's right, I remember that, yeah. Ocean Park is a tough neighborhood to canvas. One, because of the hills, but two, there's a lot of gated apartments here, so. It was a joy to be able to hit the streets that I was able to here in Ocean Park. I door knocked on, we completed 159 precincts, 12,503 doors. In every neighborhood in the city to include downtown. So it was a slog. And my campaign started door knocking in August. But I did that intentionally. I did that because I knew I needed to show that I was serious about serving the community. I knew I wanted to reach out to every neighborhood, every pocket of Santa Monica. You know, we don't have districts in Santa Monica, so it's important to build those connections across the city. So that was a very intentional thing.
Good. Unless there's any other pressing questions, I know you have another meeting to go to, so thanks for making time for us. Thanks for your service to the community and to the country.
Thank you. I'll just say, please feel free to reach out at any point. My email is going to be dan.hall@santamonica.gov. I'm always willing to listen. We may not always agree on everything. I may not vote the way you want me to every time, but I'll always listen and always take your perspective into consideration. I think speaking for my team, when we all feel that way, we want to continue to build connections with folks that we haven't before and with organizations that are key parts of this community, like the Ocean Park Association. So thanks for your time, y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up, we got Jenny Rogers, Director of Recreation and Parks for the city, joined about a year ago now, correct? And making time to update us on all of your priorities and things going on in the city and talk to OPA. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sean. So I was really looking forward to seeing you all tonight because, I'm not exactly brand new in my position, but I've spent the last year trying to restore a department that really had a lot of cuts to it during this COVID period. And I just want to thank you for your support of this amazing new department that I get to lead, because I think that happened because of community like yourselves. So a little bit about myself. I have spent about 30 years in the field of arts and recreation. I have kind of a non-traditional background. I grew up playing a lot of sports, always was an arts person, but I have a bachelor's in art and semiotics from Brown University and an MFA from Penn State in art and new media. And I fell in love with this type of public service straight out of Brown. I was living in New York, and my spouse, who's from New York, we said, okay, we're going to try to go to California together. We landed in San Francisco, and there was a job at probably the roughest park in the city. If any of you know San Francisco, Tenderloin, Bodecker Park. That was my first assignment. Wow. As a public servant. And I was, at the time I was straight out of undergrad. I was just, in tears driving down to this park because I was like, I'm going to do recreation and art in this park. And I was driving around, and if you know it, Eddie and Ellis, Taylor and Jones. And the only thing I saw was recreational drug use. Like, I didn't see any art. I didn't see any recreation the way I understood it. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know how to do this type of recreation. This is going to be something different. And so, just so you know, if anyone ever tells you you have carte blanche, if they give you a job, there is a reason for that. So I learned very quickly in an environment, and I share this story with you today because I know that we have issues in Santa Monica, and I know those issues affect our ability to activate our open spaces and activate our parks and recreate and enjoy each other's company. And I can tell you, I've done this work in probably the roughest areas that I can think of. And so we were able in that park to really work as a community to revitalize that park. And you had all sorts of events, we had programs. We basically took that park back for the community, so the community could really enjoy that park. It was one of the few parks in the Tenderloin. And so that's part of what I want to help do here, because I hear from a lot of different communities that they're not able to access their parks, they're not able to access their community centers, they don't have the presence on site that they'd love to see. And this is something I've been working really closely with Sean on, and related to the beach and beach volleyball and the things that are going on there. So I just want to kind of share with you, I won't spend a lot of time tonight proselytizing, but I feel that public service is a calling. I feel that the work we do creates community. So I feel, and my other department heads are going to argue about this, but I feel that we have the most sacred mission in all the department. And your new Recreation and Arts department, we call it RAD, because we think we're the coolest in the city, but it's really something we want to do in collaboration with you. So I'm here tonight to enlist you all and to say to you, let's make Santa Monica rad. Let's do all of the recreation and arts and culture that we want to do in the community together. And we're going to have a survey. So I want to put it on everyone's radar here shortly. We're working on the questions right now, but the beginning of this year, we're going to ask all Santa Monica to tell us about recreation and art. We're going to ask you what parks you frequent. We're going to ask you if you're not frequenting the parks, why? We're going to ask you what kinds of activities do you enjoy? Have you tried doing those activities with our department? If you don't, why not? Or we're going to ask you, are there things that you'd love to have happening here that we currently don't offer? So it's going to be a whole array of questions. And I would love for you all to fill out the survey, at least those that are selected, because it's going to be a statistically valid survey so we can use it for grants. So if you get selected, please fill it out. And that survey process is going to go we're working on the completion of a Parks and Rec master plan, which was started before my arrival, but we want to complete that. And this is kind of a missing piece. So I did want to mention, I did a lot of work in this field before I became a director. I'm not one of those people that kind of flies in as an executive. So I started really doing this work, on the playground. And when it rained, I didn't get hours because I was working with kids, and have held positions kind of all through the ranks till when I became a director. And so that is helpful, I think. This is the first time in the history of Santa Monica that you've had a recreation and arts department that was its own entity. In the past, it was always a subset of a much larger department. Like the department previous to coming here, I was in Beverly Hills, huge monster department. It's the library, and it's the parks, and it's the recreation, and it's the social services, it's the homelessness. It's like so many things that it's kind of none of those things really well. And so what I love about this job, and I had actually retired, and I came out of retirement because I wanted to do this with you all. And I was so excited about doing this work in Santa Monica that you've never had this focus. And so I really want to take maximum advantage of that we have this opportunity right now. We may not have it forever. So we want to really leverage into that, because I know there's a ton, like this is to me, the capital of recreation and arts in the world. Like there's so much that we can do, partially because of the weather, but partially because, we're the people that love to play. We love to play with each other. We love to play out in the great outdoors. We love to recreate. We love to make art. So I want to make sure that there's a lot of that happening. And in order to do that, you have to tell me what it is that you want to do. And we're going to make sure that we understand that so that we can go out doing it. So I did want to mention there's a couple things specifically to Ocean Park that might be of interest, because we had talked about back in 2018, we had a pilot program where we had beach monitors that were out and interacting, and we had more presence as a department back when was the community cultural department, CCS. that was a very successful program, and because of COVID, I think there were cuts. And so one of the things I've been working on with Sean is, can we resurrect that? Because that will be really, really helpful if we can have more staff presence on the beach. Right now, the beach is kind of a little Wild West. We know there's groups like our beach volleyball that has utilized that for decades and decades. And we want to make sure that we're actually supporting our community to be able to use the beach that you love so much. And so we're going to be hopefully bringing that to start that pilot in February. We're going to take it all the way through October of next year. So that's something, if any of you are from that community or you're someone who loves recreating on the beach, we're going to have additional support to make that possible. What else did I want to share with you tonight? So many things, but I wanted to leave time also for some questions and thoughts from you all, because I love to have a dialogue. There's hands going up already, so maybe we can.
So what, do you have a plan for, Crescent Bay Park?
Specifically just for Crescent Bay?
It is, I mean, it makes Reed Park look like a kid's playground.
Really?
It is, right? The pagoda attracts drug addicts. It's pretty bad. It hasn't been updated probably since it was built in 1920. It's gonna be the face of Ocean Park during the Olympics. So we're hoping that something happens.
Yes.
No one's paid attention to it. I don't think that,
What?
I know it's new.
I love hearing that feedback tonight, because now Crescent Park has just risen to my priority list. This is how I approach, I believe that in order to really make public space safe and accessible to everyone, you have to activate it.
Yeah.
So you can't just bring in law enforcement, which is maybe a part of the equation, but the most important thing is, what activities do you have there that people can enjoy? And so, unfortunately, during the COVID period, we retracted a lot of that because we just didn't have the staff. You know, we didn't have staff at Crescent, but we also didn't have activities happening at Camera Obscura, the Miles Playhouse, Reed Park. There was a bunch of things that kind of laid fallow, for lack of a better word. And so one of the things I would want to do is think very specifically about how are we going to activate that park consistently in a meaningful way in collaboration with the community. That has to happen. And the HOAs are key to that. Other stakeholders, obviously, community groups are going to be key to that. I also think that one of the strategies that we've used very effectively is to say there's certain rules that are on those park signs. We're not always good about enforcing those rules, and that can be helpful, especially if you're saying, we want to have this be an area where people can actually recreate rather than just recreate doing drugs, whatever that is. We can effectively do that from an educational standpoint. We don't have to go in and arrest everybody, but we can let people know this is what's happening here. And that was a very effective strategy that we used in the
I live
town.
over there, so for us, it's when park is activated, it's a completely different experience than
Right.
it is on your average morning.
Well, we're looking at launching a program called Art Everywhere, which is a citywide initiative. And part of that is going to be getting funding from the county, getting funding from private public partnerships so that we can be doing those types of activations all the time across the city.
The park is art. I like it.
The park is our,
Mark, then Lucy.
Are you aware of the issues of the teenagers on bicycles at the Ocean View Park?
I am.
Okay.
I'm very aware of them, but I want to hear your thoughts about them.
Well, you seem to be doing something about bringing those fences. I mean, you know,
Yes.
it's, maybe it's tearing up that park.
Yes,
The guy that looks after it does a really, really great job.
yes, he does.
He's almost, I mean, you know, almost he is in tears, and he's almost threatening to quit because of the damage they're doing.
Yes.
Just, I just want to make sure that you know about it.
We're working on, for those that don't know, these e-bikes have kind of, many people are shaking their head, they know, have kind of been terrorizing, racing through parks, racing through soccer practices. It's really dangerous what's been happening. And so we've been working with the Public Works Department to create some areas of, I think we've got bike racks and things that kind of create, you can't take the, you know, the mountain bike. But we're also looking at working with PD on, you know, some of the law enforcement rules that we could apply so that we're not having I'm sorry.
One sec, Lucy had her hand up before you. You'll be next. Sorry.
I'll let you do the,
Thank you.
yes,
Hoping that they had it done with pop.
yes.
Bushes, roots and pop, but like on a smaller scale, compared to a lot of that small beach where I used to live. And the other thing, a lot of young people enjoy the beach, so there's something at the beach for older people or around the beach. So
I would love that. Do you want to be on my committee, my subcommittee for creation of, senior programming? Okay, you're enlisted.
You're next, and Hunter in the back.
It's the noise element coming out of the amplification.
Hmm.
I know you have issued permits. I would hope you would issue permits without amps. There's other methods. Phones. That's very important because it disturbs other people that aren't in that area. They come down for recreation, and there's residents.
Which sound, I'm sorry, which sound are you talking about? From people recreating or from,
I'm talking about the parks, the beaches. Aren't you part of Parks and Rec?
I'm the director of recreation and art. No, yes, but I just wasn't sure which sound you were talking about, because I've heard from people complaining about sound from people recreating.
Music, or what are you talking about?
I'm talking about, it doesn't have to be music, it's amplification.
Any amplification.
Loud.
Gotcha.
When you have amplification, you can
Gotcha.
get really loud.
Yes.
And there's, I know the city has a sound ordinance.
Yes.
Please don't come out, but if you issue permits, you can very easily say, give your permit without amplification, electric amplification.
Gotcha.
Would you be into that?
I think it sounds like there could be a combination of unamplified activations. I know those have been very popular. I do know that we probably have some events that do amplify, and so we want to find a balance.
A lot of those events are amps.
Yeah,
Most of them are.
I think many of them are, yeah. What I'm hearing from you is you'd like to see some
I can't
unamplified.
hear you.
What I'm hearing from you is you'd like to hear unamplified events.
Yeah, can you do that?
Yeah, we could certainly do that.
Hunter.
Okay.
You bet.
Question for you, the survey you mentioned, who you said you mentioned? Is that just random selected citizens of Santa Monica?
Yes, so in order to do a statistically valid survey, what they'll do is they'll get folks from across the city. There will also be an opportunity online if you weren't selected for you to also take the survey. So I don't want to make people feel like no one's going to be left out, but in order to get grants, we have to be able to show that we had very specific people from across the city that filled that out. And without doing something a little more targeted, we have no way to show that. And we're hoping to get some grant monies to do some of the things we want to do.
Totally understand. I don't actually live in Santa Monica.
Okay, well-
But I come here every day and I do
Yeah.
every day, so I would actually love to take your survey.
We'll have you take the online.
I'm sure you'll see it in the newsletter. Any other questions? Hold on, Tony.
Well, his point of amplification. I live on the street, so it's a lot of time at sunset, I'll go down to Tower 26. And there's people playing volleyball, which is great, or pickleball now, whatever it is they're playing. But there's always a DJ. I guess they have a permit for that, I'm assuming they do. And it
Yeah.
just seems like,
So sure.
I try not to be that guy, but
Yeah.
I want to enjoy the sunset and just be in this peaceful beach.
Yeah,
And, and then I don't mind them playing volleyball, but that's perfectly fine. There's the people on the bikes doing their thing. But it's more of the DJ element. It's like a little bit distracting from peacefulness of everything else. I don't know. Anyway.
no, I think that's a great point. I mean, one of the things that I think this next year for me and for our RAD team is really about, and this is working obviously in collaboration with all of you, is that at this point, there's a lot going on the beach.
Yeah.
And it's just been going on like that for quite a while. So what we're looking at is actually creating specific zones that acknowledge like the usage that has existed for decades and decades by members of our community, but also letting people know you can't just come to Santa Monica and monetize the beach without a permit, without any process, because there's people that live in this community, like yourself,
Right.
we want to invite people to come and do things that the community would really enjoy. I'm not saying we don't want to encourage that, but we need to have a process. Because we actually, when people say to me, well, did you know this is happening? I'm like, actually, that was totally unpermitted. And that person just came and did their thing. And so we want to create a little bit better process so people understand, like, there may be areas that might be more appropriate for a DJ.
Right.
You know, to this gentleman's concern, like, if it's keeping people up in the middle of the night and they can't sleep because it's a more residential area, that's probably not where we would want for people to go. So we want to kind of guide them. And I know there's, you know, a ton of people in the community that just want more fun things to do. And so we want to make that possible too. We want to make it easier. I know, to Jeff's point, like, we want to make it easier for people in the community that have all this energy and want to pour it into creating these amazing community and cultural events. That shouldn't be so hard. Right now, it's really a lot, and a lot of people go, why am I doing this to myself? We want to make that process more welcoming. And we want to make it feel like you're working in collaboration with public servants that want to support you, make it easier for you to do those things rather than feeling like you're having to navigate bureaucracy.
And before we move on, I just wanted to tie something that Jenny said earlier together with that point. Is a lot of the activities that we've talked about a lot over the years, where there's sometimes problem with loud music and other things going on, they're unpermitted and in many respects unenforceable, because the police don't know exactly what has been permitted and hasn't. And that's where the program that Jenny was talking about earlier, the pilot program that's launching in February, that I've been working with her on for months around in the background, is going to help address, is have people from the department who know exactly what the rules are, who know who's been permitted, hasn't been permitted, to be able to try and be a liaison between the people that are doing those activities, citizens, and the police, and try and get that better under control and organized. Until that's done, probably won't really know exactly who, you know, who's playing the loud music, and it becomes easier to then enforce those problems when you know who's allowed to be there and not be there. So just wanted to tie everything you were together a little bit better on that. Hold on, Judy had her hand up, then you.
Ocean Park has a bunch of really small parks. Recreation areas, even, we could call them. Unlike other neighborhoods, and I don't know how that happened. It happened a really long time ago, but I think it's wonderful that we have these small but welcoming places. And I just wanted to underscore how important those are. Obviously, the beach is a very important part of our community, but so are the smaller parks.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Please.
Completely agree with you, Judy. But now I'm going to flip to the other scale, which is big scale. I don't know if everyone in the room agrees with me, but I did really enjoy those glow festivals on the beach, and then they went. And I was sad about that, but I know people felt they were perhaps too big. But I'm just wondering, with the Olympics coming around and the Arts Olympiad that's supposed to be part of the Olympics, do you have some kind of big plans for doing some fun events on the scale of glow?
We do, and actually the glow example is very in keeping. What we're talking about is the celebration of the elements through temporary art installations on the beach, that we would work with the art institutions, the galleries, to help pay for the artists to be commissioned to create beautiful works in Santa Monica, so that if you walk, you know, down the boardwalk, or you walk down the beach, you get to experience these incredible art installations. We want them to be about nature. We want them to be about the connection between art and the environment. So that's the big vision. You know, there are some rules. If we do go forward with being a host site for the beach volleyball, which would be incredibly cool, because this is the birthplace of beach volleyball, there may be some restrictions on some of the things that we can do in gathering people. So we would have to work with the Olympic Committee on what is allowable. But we have a ton of ideas about how to do, and I think you would be really excited. We want you to be part of the planning of that. And we're really excited to take opportunities between now and the Olympics to start hosting these types of things. We've talked about doing some activations around beach volleyball and some other sports that we could get people to come and enjoy these larger scale events so we can start to scale up to something of the level of an Olympics. So,
Forget about the rooftop.
right?
John, you would
So
do
as you try to figure out what's going on, please make sure you talk to stakeholders, like people at Shutters and Kensington. They have some real issues that are going on for a long time.
Thank you for that. I've met some of the hotels that are nearer to the, if you guys know where the camera obscura is. Because we installed some net watch cameras around that facility that do some voice downs that help protect that facility. And that's been a good experience, but I'd love to get Shutters and Casa de Mar and talk to them.
Show up at OCD and they just have a captive audience.
Wow.
Around the boardwalk and, Shutters is getting pretty angry because now these people are part of their reviews, right? It's a hotel that we rely on their transit, their occupancy.
Right, the TOT.
Right, especially for the region. I don't know if you guys know this, the region is, they're gonna rent rooms for $8,000 a night, and on that $8,000, $1,000 of tax to go to rooms.
I'm sorry, where?
the new Regent,
The old Lowe's,
the old Lowe's that just reopened as the Regent.
8,000 a night.
You had your hand up again?
You have a sort of a problem with enforcement, big problem, I think. And I just like go back, you said about these scooters, it's not just scooters, you got gas powered bicycles down there. It's very dangerous, and they're not supposed to be there. Now, getting back to enforcement, the police are really tied up. And I think that if you would join the police and try to get liaisons that can, especially with amplification, that are down there and talk to the people if they have a permit or not. And I do hope you do look into the permit process, not issue amplification, electric amplification. But I'm talking about liaisons to do the enforcement. Police are pretty tied up.
Agreed. I think back in, the pre-COVID moment, there was PSOs, the Park Service officers in a lot of the larger parks. That's something that I'm working with the chief actively to try to reinstate those Park Service officers. We're also looking at how our department can add facility monitors. So we're doing the beach monitors as a pilot, but we're hoping to bring more facility monitors to the parks that can hopefully help with some of those enforcement issues, because it doesn't have to all be on the backs of our police department. Some of the things are just, you're violating your permit when you're doing certain things, right? So we're looking at how we can do that. Obviously, we have, we don't have an infinite budget, but we're working, like the work we've been doing with Sean has been incredibly helpful. So I just want to encourage all of you. I have an office that is a suite of us that's in City Hall, but I'm happy to come out of that suite. I'm happy to have you come visit me there, but I'm happy to come visit you and spend some time in your little pocket park or any place around Santa Monica. I love to have those conversations. And so I just want to make sure if nothing else happens tonight, that Jenny Rogers is the person to talk to about all things art, park, and recreation. And so we can continue to have those dialogues. Because now I'm thinking, how can I help with Crescent Park? Like, I'm getting fed from the nourishment you all are giving me tonight, and hopefully we can continue to do that in a collaboration where, the synergy of the 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 2, right? All of the energy of all the people in this room calibrated together is like times 1,000.
Great.
I just want to say to you that in this room are a lot of people who will help.
Thank you.
Once you have your plan,
Yes.
tell us what you want from us. And
With gratitude in my heart for that. Thank you all for that support.
I want to work on the
It's gonna, okay, you're enlisted. It's gonna take a village for us to do the things we want to do. And in order to activate anything, you need all of this community engagement. So it doesn't mean anything for me to stand in the middle of the park. So I need that support. And thank you for the opportunity.
Please.
Is it your department that worked on this arts? I don't call it festival, but yesterday in one of the areas.
The art in the park, the artist fair.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but that's just a community event, and they get a permit.
Oh, okay.
But we're looking at hopefully helping community do more of this, but hopefully also doing more of those types of events ourselves. My department does, many of you may have been to the Endless Summer Camp at Tongva Park. We do a month of concerts. I think that's usually in August. We do a month of concerts at Gondara called Americana in the Park. We're planning a whole bunch of concerts for next summer. So, you know, we have to talk to you all about if we're doing activations. Are we doing activations, Judy, at the pocket parks? Are we doing them on the beach? What does Ocean Park want? So that's something I'm eager to learn more about. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining the city. I can personally attest that Jenny's been super engaged and answering questions and sincerely caring about ways to improve and do great things here. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Hunter, want to come up and give a quick update on all things Main Street? Sure do. I think most of you know this, but Hunter Hall runs the Main Street Business Improvement Association, all the events that we put on, you know, collaboratively with Main Street. But just want to make sure.
Hello, everybody. Favorite unelected Main Street despot here to give you an update. So I don't have much to say. I'll keep it super brief. Big thing is a big thank you for all the events this year. They all went very well. Coming up, we have our holiday event on Sunday, December 8th, which is a departure from the normal Saturday that we do. It's on Sunday, December 8th, same place, Heritage Square. No word on whether or not there will be a shopping cart tree this year. Because of the new restaurant there, there's some issues with Edgemar, so that may or may not happen, not sure yet. But it may just be at the Heritage Square and that area. And if I remember correctly, you said Victorian is not open.
Victorian's usually not open on Sundays. Okay. We don't know yet if they're going to be open because it's a bigger night. And
okay, yeah, to be continued. So there's that event, and then for next year, we have a couple of cool different things going on. One thing that is not like fully fleshed out yet is we have this really cool event series we're going to do, which incorporates the farmers market. Essentially, it's going to be like a ripoff of Dine LA, but it'll focus all on Main Street. And the hook will be that when you go and eat at these Main Street restaurants, they're using produce from the Main Street farmers market. And then you'll get also like a gift certificate for the farmers market when you eat that meal. So an example would be if you go to like, I don't know, Lula and you get a $50 kind of meal, you also would get like $10 that you could use at the farmers market. So it's kind of like a cool hook that encourages people to use the farmers market, and that's nice. Next year, we're going to probably do 2 street closure events again. We're going to do the summer solstice, which is more of a live music focused event. That will be in June. We will also do Monopoly again for those of you who have done that. That's usually at the end of May. Always a fun time. And then Day of the Dog, which is wildly popular. That will actually be at the end of the year. That will be on October 18th. That's the date that we picked. A lot of reasons, primarily because it's just really hot in early September. The past 2 years, there's been like actually some dogs that have overheated, had to go to the vet. They've had to cancel some of their like running events, you know. So October is just a better event, a better date to do that kind of event. Really good weather in the end of October too, and it's also still kind of warm. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you all about is something super exciting. You might have heard about SB 969. Has anybody heard about that? Okay, I see some claps. So essentially, SB 969, it's an ordinance, or sorry, it's a thing that has happened all around the world, but in California recently, Governor Newsom and the legislature passed it. It's entertainment zones. What does this mean? Well, it means that we're going to turn Main Street into New Orleans. There's going to be drunken revelry all day, every day, nonstop. No, that's not what it means. So if you hear any of that, please, like, that's not what it is. City staff is working on recommendations now that they're going to come back to City Council with. What it will do is it'll open the door for events, okay, just events, for us to have open carry alcohol in the street. This is something that cities all over the world do. San Francisco does it, Montreal does it, Savannah, Georgia does it. It's actually pretty easy to regulate. I don't want to get too specific, but essentially you have like specific cups, like we would make 10,000 very obvious Main Street branded cups that look like nothing else out there, something like that. And then obviously there's more police presence. And the idea would be that you could buy a margarita at Lula and then walk and sit out in the street. Some of you have been to our street closure events know that we put furniture out there, like picnic tables and lawn furniture and whatnot. It's always hard because when people come to these events, they kind of like, I don't know why, well, I do know why, but they naturally assume that you can already do that, right? So you have this sort of pain point where people want to go buy a beer or a margarita and then go sit at this picnic table that's in the middle of Main Street. But you can't do that because this is before this opportunity exists. So hopefully we're going to help work with city staff and craft it in such a way where this is an option that is available just for events on the promenade and on Main Street, where again, there's it's quite easy to regulate. There's increased police presence. You have things like wristbands and special cups and all that jazz, and more enhanced kind of cleaning up. And it's a big, big win for everybody involved because it's just like way more of a festive environment. And of course, there's guardrails there. So with that, I'm going to run out before anybody has any questions.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, right. Okay, questions, comments, concerns? Yes.
I'm really worried about the shopping trolley tree.
Okay, yes, I am too.
Could it have another location? Like,
Possibly, yes. I don't want to speak with any authority on that. Anthony is the man behind that. I believe you know Anthony. So there's some nuance there. It's also a money issue. I do know it is quite expensive to put it on every year, but again, Anthony's the person to speak to about that. We could theoretically put it somewhere else. We've talked about that, but again, not the authority on the shopping cart tree. So yeah, give Anthony a buzz.
Okay.
He'll have some more info, more insight, more nuance.
John.
Yeah.
Entertainment zones.
Yes.
I think a couple things. One, I think you can count on the Ocean Park Association to be your partner as we have in the past.
That's why I'm here. Yes. I am hoping that, of course, I mean, like, look, the reason that that we've been really proactive on Main Street forever, well, as long as I've been around, is that, we can partner with you all on things like our al fresco or public art or events. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fool. I know that we're not going to move forward with something of that magnitude without, having your all's buy-in. And that's kind of why I'm here, to make sure that we're transparent about it and the rumor mill doesn't start like, oh my God, Hunter wants to turn Main Street into New Orleans. No, that's not what it is. Not all the time. This would just be for events, and it would be highly, highly, highly regulated.
So the other thing that you need to keep in mind as you think through this is your ability to self-fund, especially over the next few years. So keep that in mind when the time comes. I'm just
Sorry, say that again.
self-funding,
Oh yeah.
right? Because the city, they're not going to have
Yes.
cash, right? So, okay.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's actually one of the biggest reasons why it's attractive to us, is not because we just want a party. It's because there is actually, I mean, I've ran restaurants for 20 years, as many of you know. There's a lot of ways to incorporate sponsorship into an event of this caliber with a tool like that. For example, distributors and whatnot are much more willing to give larger chunks of money to fund events for something like that than they are what we've done in the past. We do not make money on our events, unfortunately. They're extraordinarily expensive. We actually lose money every year. We do them because they're great for the community, but man, they really, it's a huge hit. And the sponsorships that we do get, they're great, and we sell the booths and things like that, but it's just not, it's not an event that was really ever designed to be a profit generator. And maybe with an entertainment zone designation for some events like that, we could at least make a little bit of money. Ocean Park Association could probably profit off that too in some creative way. I'm totally like throwing that curveball to you all, but I'm sure that there's a way that we could find a way to kind of co-profit on.
Then get busy.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
Lucy.
Hi, Chair, today. I know it's colder and I'm so, but it might be a good idea to have bowls, every so often, every block of the dogs to drink some water. But last time they were like coming into the open and just like trying to get out of the sun and no bowls of water or anything.
You mean for the dog event specifically or in general?
No. What's the matter?
Okay, yeah, that is an excellent suggestion. We did think about that a couple of years ago. We actually did, I'll take the fall for that. We did actually have somebody who was willing to make those bowls for this past event. It was just so much money that we couldn't really justify it at the time. And this person had sort of signed up to sponsor it, but then they backed out. So we'll probably remedy that for this next event. And we'll get like branded dog bowls. On a bigger note, we have looked into, where do they have these? In Palisades Park, if you walk your dog there, like I do every day, you know, they have those permanent green kind of water fountain dog bowl combos. They also have them at the dog parks. We've looked into potentially installing a few of those on Main Street. It's also extraordinarily expensive. So we got to talk to the city about that and see if we can, you know, finagle that in a way. I would love to have many of those, of course. I mean, you've probably seen me with my two big white wolf-looking dogs up and down the
So
street.
today, I don't know, I told Sean in the LA Times, they came out with a thing about the 10 best walks in all of Los Angeles. One of them was down.
Yeah.
Really?
So
I did not see
congratulations
that.
on her.
Yay! That's great. Wait, where is that? LA Times?
LA Times.
Okay, wow, okay.
10 best walks.
Nice, nice, that is good. I did not, nobody sent me that. So, usually I get all the press. Any other questions on events past and future? Anything like that? No?
Yeah, Mark.
I mean, I just got a point, you said you're losing all this money on these events, so why are you doing that?
Huge community benefit and
What do you mean by that?
the ripple effect in terms of increased sort of economic activity is undeniable to all the businesses. There's a lot of data out there and a lot of kind of think pieces that have been written by business associations over the years around the world on loss leader events, and that's what this is. It's a loss leader event. So essentially, we can justify losing a little bit of money doing the event because by doing these events, it keeps Main Street essentially in the public mind, and that's why there's, you know, we get these benefits of people writing these articles and getting good press, and you know, you can see those throughout the years. And we'd like to, you know, we know how to do them at this point. You know, for those of you that have been to these events, we've had lots of help from you all over the years. Luckily, there's been no major incidents. We've got it pretty dialed. It's down to a science now. And I would love for them to turn a profit. Don't get me wrong. Like I've been, you know, trumpeting that for a long time. It's just, it's hard to really like find a way to profit on events where you don't have some like really obvious thing that you're selling or pushing, or that you can get a huge sponsor from. And that's one of the side hopes of doing the entertainment centers. That like you can get a large sponsor, like a big whale sponsor, like I don't even want to throw it out there, but like an Anheuser-Busch or a Nike or a Coke or whatever. Those are the kinds of events that they're more willing to sponsor, and that would, you know, make me have less anxiety about payments, essentially.
That'll get busy on the Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Hi.
I'm going to ask you, on Main Street, there's some places that you do vacant so long, and really right there, so there's Ariel.
Oh, yeah.
Supposed to be the world
I can tell you all about
And
that.
then the other one is Fish and Fried Home.
Uh-huh.
And we walk there every time it's empty, so it's right on the first side door.
Yeah, I am right there with you. I know all about those spaces. I've helped those property owners, or tried to help those property owners many times over the years. The Enterprise Fish Company space, because I used to do permit expediting and all that stuff, I've talked to that property owner many times about finding ways to encourage different uses in that space. I've actually marketed it to other restaurant operators to come in. They have a tenant now. It's a good tenant. They're going to be opening, I think, middle of next year.
I'm sorry, what's the open?
The Enterprise Fish Company space.
It's opening.
Yeah, and I mean, God forbid, just knock on wood.
So
right here.
maybe you can't say anything, but I can say the former chef of Hatchet Hall has said he's opening a restaurant there. He got a Michelin star at Hatchet Hall.
Yeah, and there have been a couple of tenants that have fallen through, so that's why we're knocking on wood. Regarding the Ariel space, I am not that property owner. I don't represent that property owner, so I want to like make sure to mention that. I will tell you that from my understanding, there's a very ugly kind of probate family dispute going on with the woman who owned it passed away, and her husband, partner, boyfriend, whatever. There's something with their kids, and they can't agree on what to do with the property. Again, I don't own it. I don't represent them. I don't have any horse in the race, so I can't say for sure, but that's my understanding based on the several people in the know that I've spoken to. I hope to God that they figure it out at some point and rent it out. I have personally presented them with qualified candidates over the years. Over the past 7 years, they've been vacant, and it just hasn't gone anywhere. So it's certainly not because there's a lack of people who are interested in this space. It's a good space. It is limited by its conditional use permit or their permitting, if you want to call it that. They would have to kind of start fresh. But that's really the lowest problem for them. You know, they need to figure out their own personal issue. I do know the O'Brien space is for sale, which that was another kind of quagmire problem for a while, but at least now it's for sale, which is, believe it or not, positive. So hopefully somebody will scoop that up and do something with it.
And the property next door?
That I don't know. I don't know about that, but I know that the O'Brien's for sure. He did, or he does. They do. That's not true. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
I come from New York and we have really big street fairs and.
Yes, you do.
In terms of undercover police, I mean, the possible element that might be the next year and all that. Just concerned, because there was so much crowd at the street fair. We had it here, which is because everybody's nice, or do they really have someone?
What do you mean? Like when we do events, are we gonna have? Can't speak for the police department on the ununiformed versus uniformed element. I will tell you that I do speak to the chief somewhat regularly about stuff like this, and I'd be willing to bet they do have I'd be willing to bet that they do have some undercover element at our larger events, specifically for terrorism related concerns. There is certainly uniformed officers there as well. If we do move forward with the entertainment zone kind of designation pilot program, if you will, I can assure you there will be far greater police presence than we've had in the past. Anything
Thank
else? Going once, going twice? Okay, I'm
Thanks, Hunter.
escaping relatively unscathed here.
New world.
Thank you.
Well, jumping into board business. One of the first topics I want to talk about is, God, that's a lot of me. Is the election, not the election, OPA election. So with the end of the year comes the need for new board. We have a few people whose terms were running up, and we have some new people that are interested in joining. Patty and or Christina want to talk about sort of the process and people running.
I can announce our slate of candidates, and if you guys want to like pop up and wave or something, that'd be cool. Chris is running for his seat again. I don't see him online. So this is like in first name alphabetical order. It's not like a real. Ian is running for his seat again. Ian, if you want to. Hello. Jeff Fleming will be a new person that's running to join our board. John running for his seat again, and Judy. Kelly Martin.
She's not here
I don't
tonight.
see her today, but she's come to meetings and has worked with some of our local teams for Salem High. So she's running. Patty is running again. Sean is running again, and we have Tony also, who is running to join our board. So we will have our election meeting on December 8th. We're working on a place apparently, And there will be some paper ballots in a lovely little box, and you guys will come and we'll make sure you're members and you'll vote. And then after that, I think Sean will also send out, we talked about electronic for anybody who didn't make it. And then we'll tally the votes and let you know who our board of directors is. Anything else I missed?
Just know that, we will have, paper ballots at our meeting. Because a lot of people like to come and vote there. And we'll also, if you want to renew your membership or join, I can't handle because I'm running, I can't handle the election. But I can handle the membership of the board. Hope to see you and I hope to see you wherever that is.
Cool.
So I will crack the box open and I'll have somebody double verify the votes. Last year Patty and I did it together and my husband observed. So I'm not running, so I can touch stuff with a couple things, so.
Lucy.
How many spots currently, because how many people are running, because last time it's pretty much even.
We currently have one extra candidate per spot. Our board is 14. Our bylaws say that we could vote as an association to increase that one more spot to 15, or we could stay at 14. So I'll just put that out there.
I make a motion to go to 15. I think if people want to volunteer, they should have a chance.
I second that.
Second, okay. Wanna call a vote?
Before we do that, any questions or discussion on that? Cool. Do we have to do it by affirmation or individually? Yeah, I guess that's a bylaw change, so individually.
Anything else, you have to give a certain kind of notice for a final change.
I don't think so.
No.
Do you want me to call? I have the list here if you want me to call it. So I'll just go roughly in alphabetical order. Judy, yay or nay?
Yay.
Will. Jeff. Chris. Absent. Ian. John.
Yay.
Abe. Lucy. Dave. Robbie. Patty. Christina. Sean. Yes. Passes unanimously.
We have 15 slots for. If everybody gets not a bunch of no votes, then we're all on. There is no possibility. I don't think it's happened. So.
And there were no votes and yes votes, so you're.
Right.
Then we have other issues. Cool. Anything else on the election formalities we need to talk about? I don't think so. But we do, yeah.
Say thanks to Christina for the last 2 years for.
It's always a good time. It's always a good time for that. I will keep working to drag her back in. So. Thanks, Robbie. Thank you, Christina.
But what if them work? That's cool.
Now we need to figure out where we're gonna have this election and where we're gonna have our holiday party. So with the move from Saturday to Sunday, it creates problems with the Victorian, which is where we usually host it, because they're not open on Sunday. We're in touch with them, or trying to be in touch with them to see if they're going to be open that Sunday, because it is going to be a big night on Main Street. It's not gonna be a quiet night with the Main Street tree lighting and everything else. But I'm assuming the answer is no. And so wanted to see if anybody has any. Yeah, Lula's, we were just talking about that earlier and wanted to see if there's anything else we should be thinking about.
Is there another space that's even big enough?
I think there's plenty that are big enough because it's a Sunday night, like even like the Edgemar is on the table, but it's gonna be expensive. Yeah, Lula's is probably gonna be the most generous and the most spacious, but I wanted to see if there's something else we should be talking about or thinking about.
Talk to the museum.
Do they have, could we even bring food and drink in there?
You'd have to bring the food.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's on that could be on the table as well. Good idea.
I was thinking it kind of related, just as far as market, have a permit that we can use and then bring in the caterers there.
Ooh. But it's really cluttered in there with stuff.
rooms are very small.
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna go into that museum because somebody's gonna spill something on something or something.
Right.
Yeah. Is there?
Lucy, you had your hand up?
Setting up outside. That was a thing they was and being very generous and accommodating.
They were, but they were also a little difficult in terms of cordoning off enough space for us. And I worry that Sunday night, still during football season, is going to be a problem there. With Tony.
Is there any thought to like some of the places that are on the eastern part of Ocean Park?
Such as?
Well, there's a little corner up there, there's like a little patio on that kind of far east, but it's still Santa Monica. So
We're also in Sunset Park.
say again?
We're in Sunset Park for that. It's not part of. Ocean Park.
Okay.
I think you'd like to stay in Ocean
Of course.
Yeah, the Georgian actually said, let me know if you want to come here, but they're not in Ocean Park either.
So we just annex downtown.
On the table, but not for December 8th.
You had to like start at a certain time because there was another event or something.
The Service is having their party, I think at the old post office from 1:30 to 4, 2 to 5 or something. So we thought we might start later today, 4 o'clock maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what we were targeting was 4 o'clock.
Should just rent the door.
6.
I know.
I honestly think in this case, Lula is going to be the best.
Yeah.
thought.
That was my thought as well. I just wanted to make sure that there's nothing, other people had in mind. So.
The only thing, they had I don't know, female, but they had like 1 million women in the back, and they're bringing no food, no chips, everything. We're sitting there, watching and not getting anything, and the only even promised us that we could add more, and they never accommodated us. But that's because they had already had a group that had.
Yeah, that was. So.
Sharing it. If we get to it and book the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they remember that we had everything in that room, but we have to do it. First.
Remind me tomorrow morning to call Lula's about holiday party. Sorry, just leaving myself a note. Cool. I think that's our tentative plan, so stay tuned on that. You'll obviously be hearing a bunch more about it. Also, for that, want to ask if we should be doing any sort of a raffle or other sort of activation at the event. We've done a raffle in the past. We did a raffle also at a summer mixer. At the summer one, it all fell on Patty, and I don't want that to happen again if we do that. I do have multiple restaurants that have offered gift cards and stuff like that if we do decide to do that.
Is one.
Sorry, an opportunity drawing, not a raffle. Sorry. I have not reached out to them yet, but Edgemar, Holy Grail, someone else has said they'd be happy to
What's
participate.
going into the East List?
So I want to see if anyone had any strong opposition to an opportunity drawing. Assuming it is something we do, I want to get a couple volunteers to help run it. So whether you raise your hand. Sure. Okay. Cool. What? On the 8th, yeah, at the event. Yeah. Judy is running.
Are you running?
No.
Okay.
Running out of here.
Cool. If there's other volunteers to help either with raffle logistics or to ask a couple places to contribute, that'd be awesome. Dave?
See if I can get surf lessons or service.
Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. I think that's it for the election and the party. Did I miss anything, or does anybody have any questions or comments they want to bring up? Yeah.
Further in the day, I received an invoice. from
Good call. Thank you.
Supporting Santa Claus. And she said, we do this every year, and she said,
It's Miracle on Main Street, this tree lighting sponsor, and we've been a sponsor. For a couple of years, I can remember. She would like us to give her $300 for it. If you want to do that.
So last year, we basically sponsored Santa and sort of all the photos that were there, and we got some branding associated with it as well. So I believe Will motion to sponsor Santa
I want to
again.
know who's gonna vote against. Santa.
Jeff, Jeff got in the second. Lucy, you have a question? Sorry, Jeff beat you to the second this time. All in favor? Or actually, sorry, before you get there, any questions or concerns?
Someone asked if we have money, can we afford this? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We're good.
The treasurer says we can afford this.
All in favor, board members only. Great. Any opposed? All right, we unanimously agreed to support Santa.
Oh, goodness.
Well, at least on that issue. Cool. I think that's it on executive committee things. Jumping over to communications, nothing meaningful to update from newsletter, cranking along. Judy or Will, anything to update on Connect? On OPA Connects from Wednesdays?
Yes, we are still meeting every Wednesday at noon as a Zoom. And the newsletter always has the link. So you can just click on the link and be there. I'm trying to get one of the new candidates, new council members. Yeah, council member elect, yes, to be there on Wednesday, and I'm not sure. I've had a couple who said they can't. And so I'm hoping that we get one of them to be there. It's a great conversation that we have for about 45 minutes every Wednesday at noon. And we'd love to have all of you there.
Thanks. John, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just drawing a blank now.
Okay, come back to us. I think that's it on communications. We already talked about event. I don't think there's anything else on the event calendar for the rest of the year or going into the beginning of next year. Yep, I've got that coming up. We've pushed the member count and financials to the January meeting instead of tonight. Jumping into January meeting, actually, it's supposed we usually go second Mondays of the month. I personally am not available the second Monday of January. I don't want to move this meeting just because of me, but I would love to be able to be here for the first meeting of the year. And so wanted to have a discussion about possibly doing it on the first Monday in January, which would be January 6th. Let's forget about the significance of that day. It'll be calmer this year, for better or worse. So just wanted to have a quick chat to see any thoughts or concerns with having it on January 6th this year.
I support that.
Cool. Do we need to have a motion, I guess? Or just. Sure. We had John nominated Lucy, got the second before you, Jeff. Thank you very much. All in favor? Any opposed? Cool. So mark your calendar for January 6th here. And then we'll go back to the second. It's just one time.
Never said Mark.
No what?
Mark is moving back.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
So I don't know if that's true.
Mark Morgenstern is referring to past presidents.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll check in with
He
him.
was all upset, so.
Cool. I'll check with
I
him.
don't know if
Thank you.
that's gonna happen.
Cool. Moving into task forces and committees. I know we got a pretty good Main Street update. Is there anything else on Main Street from Robbie, Judy, anybody else? I don't think so.
There's a Main Street board meeting tomorrow, or no, tomorrow.
Wednesday
morning. I'm assuming there will be news, but probably nothing that we didn't hear
right
already today.
Cool. Anything else? All, that's it. I assume that was it for Main Street. Christina, anything to talk about on education matters?
Measure US passed, if you haven't been following that at like 62%, which is much higher than the 55% needed. So, higher property taxes, great schools. So that's pretty much it. So.
But I believe all three candidates that ran unopposed got reelected too.
That is true. I'm sorry. There were a lot of you that texted me and stuff to ask me about school board candidates because the fourth person was still listed on the ballot, but they had withdrawn. So all three of our school board members that were running were reelected. So
You know what happened to Malibu and
there's past
They're passed
also.
too?
Yeah, and at like 61%, it was pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
they like being in towards Santa Monica?
And they're, we're still working on what they call the unification process, which is sounds bonkers, but trying to make Malibu and Santa Monica two separate districts. A lot of years and meetings going into that, but hopefully that will continue because good for everybody ultimately, so. But there's still lots of steps to that and some roadblocks on Malibu's end, because they literally don't have enough students to be a school district. There's like, that's one of the things they have to have, so. Yes, and there's not enough diversity, for their school district also, so there's some massaging that has to happen.
I'm sure they're gonna work to fix that.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Abe, I believe you're trying to reschedule the
Yeah.
emergency preparedness meeting.
The emergency preparedness meeting committee will be meeting hopefully here, but on November 20th, between 6 and 7. And we'll be discussing implementing the ideas that we discussed in the previous meeting for the coming year.
November 20th?
Yep, November 20th.
Yeah, it'll be December 20th.
That's
Patty's gonna ask for use of this space, otherwise we might have to see it.
that's a Wednesday, a week from Wednesday. Cool. Housing, anything to talk about there, Robbie or John?
Yeah, pretty good turnout. There was about 8 people that showed up to talk about housing measures at the state, county, and then city level. This was the week prior to the election. So that was good. It still seems like there's some interest around talking housing. So we just left the meeting saying, let's make sure that we do it a little bit more frequently this next year than we did this year. So maybe February or something like that, we'll get the group back together if anybody's interested in chat housing.
Cool.
I would add that the bowling alley building is gone. If you haven't noticed. So that was just community activism because of it becoming kind of a catch-all for the sketchers. So it's gone. The thing that we're gonna have to deal with as an organization over the next 2 years is what's gonna go into the Main Street parking.
So where?
Main Street parking lot. I think that is something that we as a group should, at least understand what the city's plan is. Because it's gonna come full force, right? The only thing that may prevent it from happening in the short run is finance. Right now, the city's focused on Bergamot. We have a new council, so we can always change the votes if we have the power and the desire, but.
And just to refresh some people's memories, Bill Brock led sort of a push to rezone the south end of Main Street to allow, I believe it was 6-story upzoning. So maybe that's back on the table, maybe not.
Everything's on the table. It's good thinking, right? So we should, if we want to have a point of view, then.
Yeah, I think that should absolutely be a priority for us as an organization to think about in January and try and push for what we can agree on. And also with the bowling alley, I've gotten a lot of questions about this with it coming down. I don't believe they're planning to start any work there unless somebody has heard differently. My understanding was they tore it down out of sort of public nuisance to get it out of the way, but that Cypress, which I believe owns it or is developing it. No.
Oh, yeah, Cypress funded by USAID.
Right. Which is the same developer that's doing Gelson's project, is not planning to proceed yet, or hasn't said they're planning to proceed yet. That's my understanding. I don't know if anyone's heard anything else.
I know so the answer is that they can't get USAA to give them. And the rates keep coming down, so it's gonna change, but we have a new administration. Capital markets. A little nervous.
Tony, you had your hand up?
You mentioned the Gelsons. Is there any updates on Gelson's project?
It's in the same position.
Yeah, same thing. It's money.
Same people with the same money behind it.
Yeah.
People with the money aren't writing the checks yet because there's, to their view, margins aren't big enough and there's some uncertainty going forward. So it could change tomorrow, but as of right now, I mean, none of them are starting. Veramar's not starting. I mean, the Shutters project isn't starting, none of them. I mean, there's a few, but.
Yeah. But I believe both Bolmar and Gelson's are fully entitled at this point. So when the money is there, the digging can start. And I believe they have like it's a 5-year clock, give or take. They can get extended to do work. So that's my rough understanding. Yeah. Cool. Did Lincoln Boulevard, anything?
Oh, yeah, actually, going through talking about your projects. 2307 Lincoln, I guess that's Pearl. You're gonna see a nice 7-story building. Looks like zero setback, Taco Port of War's getting one of these cars. You guys remember Taco Wall?
Yeah.
It's gonna be Taco Port, well, it looks like it's.
Pretty fancy.
It looks really nice. And Avon is gone. What's going? Truck rental place.
Avon truck rental.
So I'm not sure if something's coming up.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get something's gonna get developed.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Also, it's not a task force or anything, but Rob, you want to update on the sort of younger meeting that you helped spearhead a couple weeks ago? I don't know how to phrase it.
Well,
Associate members.
Sean and I had a conversation at one point. He's like, what can we do to try to get some younger people engaged in OPA? And a friend of mine from San Francisco had moved to LA, and they had been involved in throwing events that basically are informational in nature around the elections that just try to get people engaged. And he had interest in doing that again. And another friend who had been in local politics in Colorado was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. So we put it together. It was a deck, maybe you clicked into it, but that basically just tried to be as OPA as possible in terms of just sharing information. And there were questions and there was conversation. There's probably 20 people there. And from like it was mostly our friends from like a young, neighborhood perspective. So we still have to figure out how we get maybe a more exciting topic. We can get more engagement or something. But I thought it was really well received by those that attended. Yeah, we'll continue to try to get more younger people into the fold. I think he has ideas and wants to try to put those into action. We'd love to chat about it.
Yeah, and that's something I've talked with Robbie quite a bit about. It's like, how do we engage and activate a lot of the younger members of the community who aren't coming to these meetings, and create and foster more sense of community sort of at all ages. And maybe it requires some different programming. So looking to hopefully continue that next year. I know Kelly Martin, who's running to be on the board, has said that's something she's interested in helping, trying to spearhead. And I think I mentioned it. I think you and I, Jeffrey, talked about it once or twice as well. So.
Oh, no, it was just someone that lived in San Francisco and they had thrown events that were similar to this in the past. We used their template for the PowerPoint. And then it was like a plug and play. We just refreshed it with this year's ballot measures. And
we have a lot of San Francisco housing money available on the other side of the public spectrum. There's some amazing things happening with housing in this town. right? Just trying to get some of it built.
Yeah. This was just a guy who lived in SF, said that he had done this, and I was like, let's do it.
That's great.
But when I show up to these, right, these events, right, there's a few of us like Cleve and I, but everyone else is. That's the youth movement.
That's the goal.
It's the youth movement. That's what.
That was intentional. Don't look at Robbie, look at me. I'm gonna push for that. Cool. I think that's it on sort of like formal things. There's a couple of things I wanted to throw out there. First is I want to recognize Mark Forming, who I believe just received an accommodation from the city for his great work. So thank you for everything you're doing. Please keep it up.
Did they say nice things about you?
Yeah. She said she could have chosen 100 people. So I think she could have done so. I think, you know, that's what I like about Ocean Park. It's the people. And we all love Ocean Park.
Also, I don't know if I want to put someone on the spot, but we do have a representative from a state assembly member, sorry, Spur's office here. And since we have a couple minutes, if you wanted to speak at all about sort of, you know, election, you know, his reelection and agenda and whatever, I'm happy for you to give you a couple minutes.
Sure, I can stand up something. My name is also Robbie. I kept getting concerned that you were about to ask me about like the young people in Ocean Park. So my name is Robbie Steinberg. Work for Assembly Members of Burr, who's everyone's Assembly Member here, assuming we live in Ocean Park. My parents live in Ocean Park. I grew up here. I was living in Ocean Park until about March. I'm now taking a temporary hiatus to explore the other side of Los Angeles. But I do plan to come back. Anyway, it's very nice to meet everybody. There's a lot to talk about with the last legislative session, and I'd be happy to come back and do a longer recap if that's useful at some point. There's been a lot of exciting pieces of legislation. Off the top of my head, one piece that's particularly interesting to folks in Santa Monica, the Housing Security Act was something that the city of Santa Monica and the city of West Hollywood sponsored with the Assembly member. That did not pass, and the Assembly member is attempting to reintroduce it. I should have the numbers in front of me, but it's about a $2,000 rent subsidy to help folks stay in their housing rather than become homeless. There's a lot of research that shows the cost of getting folks who are on the street back into housing is just astronomically higher than helping people who are in housing stay in their housing. So that's one piece. There's a lot of other things to talk about. There's a cool RV bill that we did with Mayor Bass, excuse me. That only affects the city of Los Angeles, but the spillover effects, especially with Venice, should really affect Santa Monica positively. And then going forward, one of the big measures that the Assembly member is going to be working on is the film tax credit. So if you're involved in the film industry, you know, it's a lot of people in Santa Monica do. We have a $330 million film tax credit in California, which sounds great until you look at the film tax credits in other states and other countries. So Georgia, for example, you might see like the Georgia Peach at the end of movies or TV shows, they have a unlimited film tax credit. So we don't know exactly how much money they've given out, but estimates are over $1 billion. So they are quite literally stealing the entertainment industry from Southern California. Then there's of course nation states, you know, England, Canada, Australia, all have huge film tax credits. So the governor is working on, with the Assembly member and other people in the legislature, to increase that. The current number they've been talking about is $750 million, but that's kind of still TBD. New York's is $700 million, so I think that'd be a good start. And I don't know if it's been announced yet, but the Assembly member is definitely going to have some role, whether it's leading the special committee that will be working in the legislature on that or something. Anyway, I can come back and do all the legislation if you want next time.
Could you lead with he got reelected?
Oh, well, you know, we're not supposed to be political, but that is a factual thing. He did get reelected with over 70% of the vote. So, you know, can't say that's a good thing. It's good to continue to be employed. So anyway, it's very nice.
Thanks, Robbie. Cool. Anything else? Open floor at this point. All right, we're gonna have a slightly shorter than usual meeting. Judy.
I have a space available in my house for a woman.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
After the last.
Don't answer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. I thought I saw someone else's hand up, but I guess not. All right, Christina sent the October minutes out. I hope we all had a chance to enjoy a few hours with them. Do I have a motion? Are there any questions about them? Oh. I believe Patty said it first and then Dave got his hand up second. I know, all in favor of the Nepo motion? Any opposed? None, passes. All right, unless there's anything else, I will take a motion to adjourn. I think Jeff got that one in. Dave seconded, all in favor. And I officially adjourn the last open meeting of the year at 8:06 PM. Thank you, everyone. Remember December 8th, see you somewhere.
Or if anybody wants it.
Oh, one more thing. My party is gonna be on the 15th of December.
Yeah, okay.
You